This is about reforming our electoral system so we can have the president we want. What's the problem? Two problems. Not enough choice of candidates and money in politics. You see a lack of good candidates when you find that neither of the two major candidates represents your particular values. Lack of good candidates comes from plurality voting, and it's been with us since the U.S. was born. Plurality voting means you have to win on the first ballot. Your party must be as big as possible, approaching 50%. There can only be two such parties in the country. That means a plurality system is a two-party system. In a two-party system, leaders are unaccountable. Say what? Unaccountable in America? Well, it's a big party. The leader probably comes from a wealthy elite class, not your group. You don't know if the leader understands the needs of your group or not. You don't know who his policies are supposed to benefit. You have to just trust him. Here's the coalition that got Bill Clinton elected. It contains religious liberals, journalists, college professors, Hispanics, African Americans, rich philanthropists, union members, and even non-union workers. And none of them can claim him as one of their own. Who was it that wanted NAFTA? You? Anyone here? No? Must have been someone else in the coalition then. It must be good for someone. Our leader wouldn't sell us out, would he? Here's what the union worker is thinking. Seems like we've been waiting for some help with unions for a long time. Too many other sectors, I know. We have to wait our turn, but we've been waiting 20 years now. A plurality system is a two-party system, and it is undemocratic. So what else is wrong with a two-party system? Would you believe it's a one-party system? How's that work? Okay, here's our political spectrum. Goes from there must be a union to there can't be a union. And here's what we think our two parties stand for: moderate left and moderate right. Those two positions ought to account for all the voters, right? We all have a reasonable choice. They can divvy up the votes like this. But what happens in reality? There's a space between the moderate left and moderate right. A space. Voters in that space are up for grabs. They can choose. That's intolerable. At least to a political party, it's intolerable. So one side moves over. Here the left has moved over. They sound the same, but now they would never prosecute union busting. In effect, they have turned into their opponents. Here's what the leaders are hoping for. Now anyone in the middle has to vote for that left-leaning party. You'll hear these guys talk about it. They'll say, the liberals won't like such and such a decision, but the independent voters will love it, and that's what counts. Party members don't like it. They feel alienated from their party, but just like the leaders calculated, they still have to vote for that party. That's if they vote. Many people in America don't. A third party might keep the other parties honest. Now, if the left party goes too far right, they'll lose votes to the new left party. But it doesn't work. Hey, you didn't vote for our side. You must want the other side to win. You spoiled our election. In a two-party system, you really can't vote for a third party. Well, let's go back to the original two problems. Number two is money in politics. We already know that in a plurality system, the rich are overrepresented. What else happens? Money in politics lets the right shift further over. The extreme right is where the big money lives. Money makes their position more visible and the left's position less so. They buy ads, opinion pieces, columns, documentaries. Now there is too big a gap between the parties again, so the left moves over also. And people get scared. They become willing to accept almost anything rather than that extreme right-wing leader. And third-party candidates get even less traction than usual. So now we have to decide, which one are we going to tackle first? The person in the street will pick money in politics. It's more visible and it makes that person angry. Whereas lack of good candidates is not so visible. We're used to our plurality voting system and we don't react much as right-wing candidate after right-wing candidate takes office around us. People might think, why do I have to vote for that person again? He doesn't stand for what I want. Why isn't there someone who represents me? But a month after the election, they've forgotten. Here's the case for tackling plurality voting right now. It's been with us since the beginning. It got money in politics started. With a good election system, We can solve other problems. Countries with more democratic electoral systems have been able to defeat money in politics. Here's what we need to pass an amendment against money in politics. We've already made a start on this. So what would we do to fix plurality voting? How about holding runoff elections? 3 candidates? No problem. Vote for whoever you think is best. Eliminate the candidate who gets the smallest number of votes. Hold another election for the remaining candidates. Eventually, someone gets over 50% and wins. The least voted candidate didn't spoil anything. Let's do a sample election. This one for Sheriff of Last Chance Gulch. You vote for Tammy Goodgov. She's good, but she's a long shot. Tammy comes in third and is eliminated. Now you get to vote for your favorite big-ticket party. One of those parties wins decisively. And what's so great about that? Well, you can vote for the best qualified person because you'll be able to support the big coalition in the runoff. No spoiling. Yes, but doesn't that mean the big party gets elected again? Tammy lost. What did you really gain by all that? Well, people's first choice candidates get the votes they deserve. They gain credibility even with a small vote and can translate that into a bigger vote next time. Most of all, their ideas are on the table from now on. This is not too big of a leap from what we now have. Just add another election. But wait, isn't that what we got when we adopted the top 2 system? No, the top 2 system is not the same thing. Yes, it allows many candidates to run in a first election, but the first election is only a primary. It doesn't count. It's impossible for a third party to get any votes at all in the general election unless one of the major parties opts out. They're wiped out every time. Going back to runoff voting, can we eliminate that second trip to the ballot box? Because it's a real bummer. Yes. Collect info right on their ballot on what their second choice would be. Mark your favorite candidate number 1. Mark your fallback candidate number 2. Your second vote will be your runoff vote. This is called instant runoff voting. Why work for instant runoff voting right now? We've got 3 years before we have to vote for another lesser evil candidate. It's not hard. Most people can understand it. It solves the spoiler problem for the 2 large parties. But most of all, if we don't do something, the lesser evil will be an even greater evil next time. Don't expect it to be easy. The big parties will hate it. They don't want other parties to be validated. Better to label them spoilers and make people afraid to vote for them. So what will happen if we don't fix our electoral system? Here are some likely policies we'll get in the next presidential term. Climate chaos forges ahead. Inequality grows. We invade Iran and Venezuela and try to topple their governments. Investment in health, education, and welfare goes down and down. We become a third world nation. So how can we get a better electoral system? State governments can adopt IRV for their statewide offices. The idea will spread sideways as other state governments follow suit and eventually the nation. What can you do to move this along? Make sure all the members of your group understand what's needed. Teach them. Let us know of any other groups we should present this information to. When we have a big enough group of workers, we can start an initiative and change how Washington State does elections.